You might believe they are completely invincible right now, untouchable in their arrogant delusion. They walk through life acting as though the rules do not apply to them, leaving a massive trail of devastation behind while wearing a mask of absolute perfection. But what you see on the surface is nothing but a carefully constructed illusion designed to hide a terrifying, dark reality closing in on them. Behind closed doors, when there is no audience left to manipulate and no victims left to drain, a profound psychological shift is taking place. The confident smirk they always wear is slowly cracking, revealing the desperate, frightened child they have spent their entire lives trying to bury. They are currently experiencing a quiet, agonizing panic that they can never admit to another living soul today. This is not just a momentary setback or a minor inconvenience in their grand scheme. What is happening right now is a fundamental collapse of their false reality, an unraveling of the complex web of lies they used to survive. They are finally staring into the dark abyss of their own making, and the crushing weight of their actions is beginning to suffocate them in ways they never thought possible. You have spent so much time believing you were the broken one, wondering how they could move on so easily while you were left to pick up the pieces of your shattered life. You watch them parade their new life around, seemingly untouched by the profound damage they inflicted on you. But this perceived happiness is the ultimate deception, an artificial display meant to mask their impending doom. The truth that no one tells you is that their karma does not arrive with a loud crash or a dramatic public downfall. Real karmic justice operates in complete silence, slowly eroding their sanity from the inside out until there is absolutely nothing left of their core identity. They are currently locked in a psychological prison of their own design, and they are secretly begging for some kind of mercy. But it is far too late for mercy, because the universal scales have already tipped irreparably against them. Every lie they told, every boundary they violated, and every heart they callously destroyed has accumulated into an unbearable debt that they must now repay in full. There is no escape hatch, no new victim who can save them from the horrific reality of sitting completely alone with themselves. Imagine the pure terror of waking up every single day knowing that your entire existence is a fragile fabrication waiting to be exposed. They are constantly looking over their shoulder, deeply paranoid that the world will finally see the hollow, empty void they carry inside. This relentless paranoia is the ultimate punishment, far worse than any revenge you could have ever planned or executed yourself. The narcissist operates under the strict assumption that they will always find a way to outsmart the natural consequences of their behavior. They view people as disposable objects, mere tools to be used and discarded whenever a shiny new distraction comes along. But the universe has a highly effective way of cutting off their supply lines, leaving them stranded in a desert of their own relentless greed. Now, as their carefully curated world begins to slowly crumble, they are experiencing a level of spiritual starvation that is impossible to satisfy. The new people they try to use are no longer falling for the same predictable charms and empty promises that once worked so flawlessly. Their manipulative playbook has become completely obsolete, and they are left staring at the terrifying reality of isolation. This is the exact moment when the panic truly sets in, burrowing deep into their bones and paralyzing their every move. They realize with absolute horror that the mask they glued to their face is melting away, and they are utterly powerless to stop the deterioration of their false image. The foundation they built on deceit is sinking into the earth, dragging them down into an endless cycle of pure misery. To understand this profound collapse, we must dissect the very mechanics of how they operate and why their system is ultimately doomed to fail. Narcissism is entirely dependent on an external energy source, a constant feed of validation, admiration, and emotional reactions from victims. Without this continuous influx of energetic supply, they begin to wither away like a parasite severed from its loyal host. They spent years studying your vulnerabilities, perfectly tailoring their personality to become everything you ever wanted in a partner or a friend. They mirrored your deepest desires and flawlessly acted the part, tricking your nervous system into believing they were a safe harbor. But this mirroring is just a predatory hunting technique, a calculated calculation meant to secure a reliable source of fuel. Once they had you securely trapped in their web, the subtle devaluation began, designed to systematically dismantle your self-esteem and independence. They needed you to feel small, crazy, and entirely dependent on them for reality checks, ensuring you would never have the strength to leave. This insidious power dynamic was the only thing keeping their fragile, incredibly delicate ego from shattering apart. But their fatal flaw is their insatiable greed, an endless bottomless pit that demands more sacrifices than any human being could possibly provide. They inevitably push too far, causing their most reliable sources of supply to either collapse entirely or finally break free from the abuse. This leaves a massive void in their psychological ecosystem, triggering an absolute state of frantic internal emergency. As they desperately scramble to replace the high-quality energy you once provided, they are forced to settle for fleeting, superficial interactions. These new targets do not have the deep emotional investment necessary to sustain the narcissist's grandiose delusions of absolute supremacy. The fuel is incredibly weak, like running a high-performance engine on contaminated water, causing the gears to grind. This severe lack of premium fuel causes their behavior to become increasingly erratic, sloppy, and noticeably desperate to the outside world. They start making obvious mistakes, telling conflicting lies, and throwing childish tantrums when they are denied immediate attention or praise. The sophisticated manipulator you once knew is suddenly replaced by a deeply pathetic, highly reactive toddler in an adult body. People around them are starting to notice these cracks, sensing the toxic undercurrent beneath the charming facade they project in public settings. Friends, colleagues, and even new romantic interests begin to quietly distance themselves, instinctively repelled by the heavy, dark energy they emit. The isolation is creeping in from all sides, and they are completely incapable of stopping the mass exodus. Every time they lose control over a person or a narrative, they experience what psychologists call a severe narcissistic injury, bleeding out internally. These injuries do not heal like normal emotional wounds. They fester and rot, compounding the deep-seated shame they have spent a lifetime avoiding. They are carrying a massive infection of the soul, and there is absolutely no known cure for their condition. They try to project their agonizing pain onto others through smear campaigns and vicious attacks, hoping to drag someone else down into the dirt. But these desperate tactics are losing their effectiveness, as people become wiser to their toxic patterns and refuse to engage in their dramatic games. Their screams for attention echo into an empty void, returning nothing but a chilling, deeply profound silence today. This is the precise juncture where their internal dialogue shifts from supreme arrogance to a quiet, terrifying realization of their total failure. They are finally grasping the absolute finality of the bridges they have burned and the immense destruction they have caused along their journey. The grand illusion is completely over, and the brutal reality of their inevitable doom is staring them right in the face. You must understand that karmic justice is not a fairy tale concept. It is an undeniable law of energetic physics that governs human behavior. You simply cannot generate massive amounts of chaos, destruction, and profound suffering without eventually swallowing the same poison you served. The universe keeps a meticulous ledger of all debts, and the universe has officially come to collect its heavy payment from them. The universe does not punish them by sending a lightning bolt from the sky, as that would be far too quick and merciful for their crimes. Instead, it meticulously orchestrates a slow, systematic dismantling of every single thing they claim to value or draw a sense of power from in life. Their money, their status, their reputation, and their false relationships all begin to silently decay right before their eyes. The most beautiful aspect of this cosmic retribution is that it is happening entirely within the confines of their own dark, tortured mind. They are becoming their own worst enemy, relentlessly tormented by the ghosts of their past betrayals and the lingering shadows of their many victims. Every quiet moment alone becomes a terrifying confrontation with the absolute monster they see reflecting in the mirror. They are currently experiencing a terrifying phenomenon where their standard coping mechanisms no longer offer any relief from their internal pain. Alcohol, new affairs, obsessive shopping, or whatever their chosen distraction happens to be, completely fails to numb the agonizing ache inside. They are trapped in a state of hyper-awareness, forced to feel the full weight of their profound emptiness without an escape. This is the moment they start secretly begging the universe for mercy, crying out in the dark for some kind of relief from the relentless torment. They promise to change, they swear they will do better, but these pleas are entirely hollow, rooted in fear of punishment rather than true remorse. The universe sees right through their superficial bargaining, completely ignoring their pathetic, desperate cries for help. You are the absolute best thing that ever happened to them, a rare source of pure, genuine love and unwavering loyalty in their dark world. But they threw you away like garbage, mistakenly believing that they could easily replace your profound depth with a cheap, shallow imitation. They now realize the catastrophic magnitude of their mistake, completely sick to their stomach with a profound sense of regret. But they can never come back to you, because they know you have evolved past their tricks and finally recognize them for what they truly are. They must watch from afar as you slowly heal, rebuild your life, and ascend to new heights of happiness that they can never possibly reach themselves. Your glorious success and unbreakable peace become the absolute sharpest thorns constantly twisting into their sides. Their divine retribution is essentially a lifetime sentence of being hopelessly trapped in the passenger seat of a car that is headed off a cliff. They can clearly see the impending disaster approaching, but they have absolutely no control over the steering wheel or the failing brakes. The sheer panic of this total helplessness is something they never anticipated when they were busy playing God with your emotions. As the walls close in tightly around them, they become consumed by an intense, overwhelming bitterness that slowly poisons their physical body. The stress of maintaining a crumbling facade takes a severe toll, manifesting as chronic exhaustion, strange ailments, and rapid, premature aging. Their outward appearance begins to flawlessly match the dark, decaying, ugly rot that has consumed their internal landscape. They are entirely bankrupt on every conceivable level, emotionally empty, spiritually dead, and psychologically fractured beyond any real repair. This is the heavy price of narcissism, the inescapable destination at the end of a long, dark road paved entirely with manipulation and deceit. They thought they were outsmarting karma, but karma was just patiently waiting for the perfect moment to execute its flawless trap. What makes their final collapse so incredibly devastating is its profound silence, happening behind closed doors where nobody else can witness it. To the casual observer scrolling through social media, they might still appear wildly successful, posting highly curated photos of fake happiness. But you must never mistake a carefully posed photograph for the deeply tortured, miserable reality of their actual daily existence. The silent collapse is characterized by an absolute inability to find genuine joy, peace, or satisfaction in any aspect of their hollow life. No matter how much money they accumulate or how many new partners they secure, the dark void inside them remains completely unfulfilled and hungry. They are cursed to wander the earth as emotional black holes, constantly consuming everything yet forever remaining utterly empty. Sleep becomes their greatest enemy, a terrifying battleground where their subconscious mind finally forces them to confront their darkest sins. They are plagued by terrible insomnia and haunting nightmares, jolting awake in cold sweats as the ghosts of their past refuse to let them rest. The deep peace of a quiet mind is a luxurious privilege they permanently forfeited the moment they chose to destroy your kind heart. During the long, agonizing hours of the night, the narcissist is completely alone with the echoing silence of their catastrophic life choices. The thick layers of cognitive dissonance they rely on to protect their fragile ego begin to severely thin, allowing flashes of objective truth through. In these brief, horrifying moments of clarity, they realize exactly what they are, and the profound realization nearly breaks them. They desperately scramble to rebuild their delusions before the sun rises, frantically texting new supply or seeking any form of cheap validation. But the frantic energy they expend just to maintain their false reality leaves them chronically exhausted and deeply depleted during the waking hours. They are functioning on fumes, slowly transforming into hollow shells going through the motions of basic survival every day. As the collapse accelerates, their cognitive function begins to heavily degrade, making it incredibly difficult to keep their complex lies straight. They start contradicting themselves constantly, forgetting which version of reality they sold to which person, causing immense internal panic. The master manipulator is heavily stumbling, stepping blindly into their own cleverly laid traps and exposing themselves to the world. The absolute worst part of their silent collapse is the profound realization that there is absolutely no bottom to this agonizing downward spiral. Every time they think they have hit rock bottom and the worst of the suffering is over, the floor gives way, dropping them into a darker abyss. They are falling through endless space, completely untethered from reality, and terrified of where they will ultimately land. You have to realize that you were the absolute anchor keeping them safely tethered to a sane, stable, and deeply grounded version of reality. By destroying you, they inadvertently severed their only connection to a meaningful life, condemning themselves to drift endlessly in the dark space. They threw away a priceless diamond to pick up a worthless rock, and the heavy realization of this colossal error is destroying them. They are quietly begging for a time machine, hopelessly wishing they could go back and undo the massive damage that sealed their dark fate. But time only moves violently forward, dragging them closer and closer to the inevitable day when they must answer for their horrific crimes. They are completely paralyzed by the sheer magnitude of their impending doom, trapped in a nightmare from which they can never awaken. This silent collapse is not a temporary phase of depression. It is the permanent, irreversible destruction of their core psychological structure. There is no therapy, no medication, and no new relationship that can possibly resurrect the shattered fragments of their highly disordered mind. They are a walking ghost, a tragic cautionary tale of what happens when a human being completely abandons their own soul for power. As you observe their spectacular downfall from a safe distance, it is absolutely crucial that you never mistake their current misery for redemption. A collapsing narcissist does not suddenly develop deep empathy or a genuine moral compass just because they are experiencing intense suffering. Their begging for mercy is entirely self-serving, heavily motivated by a desperate urge to simply escape the intense pain. If you were to offer them a helping hand right now, they would instinctively pull you down into the dark abyss just to break their brutal fall. You must remain entirely detached, fiercely protecting the beautiful peace and emotional stability you fought so incredibly hard to build. Let the universe handle the dirty work, while you focus your precious energy strictly on your own continued healing and massive growth today. The most empowering realization you can possibly reach is understanding that their profound punishment has absolutely nothing to do with you. Their karma is an entirely independent mechanism, a natural mathematical correction in the grand universal design that requires no help from you. You have officially graduated from their twisted, dark classroom, and your only remaining assignment is to simply live your absolute best life. Every time you smile, every time you succeed, and every time you embrace genuine joy, you are driving another sharp nail into their coffin. Your radical indifference to their existence is the ultimate weapon, stripping them of the power they once held over your mind and your spirit. They no longer occupy space in your thoughts, having been evicted and replaced by a profound sense of self-love and absolute confidence. So let them beg in the dark, let them scream into the void, and let them completely drown in the bitter ocean of their own terrible choices. Their secret agony is not a tragedy to be mourned. It is a beautiful, highly necessary rebalancing of the energetic scales that they manipulated. The heavy debt has finally come due, and the universe does not accept partial payments from those who operate with such profound malice. They will spend the rest of their miserable days furiously trying to convince the world that they are the tragic victim of circumstances. But the cold, hard truth remains locked safely inside their deteriorating brain, a constant reminder of the incredible person they destroyed. They threw away gold to chase cheap glitter, and now they must live out their remaining years surrounded by the heavy ashes of their own empire. Do not waste a single ounce of pity on the devil when the hellfire they created finally turns around and burns their kingdom to the ground. The narcissist meticulously engineered their own absolute demise, carefully laying every brick of the terrible prison they now reside within. They are receiving the exact return on investment for the massive cruelty and dark deception they deposited into the world for many long years. As we reach the profound conclusion of this psychological dissection, it is absolutely paramount that you internalize this fundamental reality. The power dynamic has officially flipped forever, completely removing their ability to inflict further damage upon your incredibly strong soul. You are the ultimate victor in this dark war, standing tall amidst the ruins they tried to bury you under, shining brighter than ever before. Their entire existence is now a desperate, frantic scramble to avoid staring at the horrific reflection waiting for them in the dark mirror. They are running from a ghost they can never outpace, forever haunted by the immense magnitude of the unforgivable sins they committed. The absolute finality of their spiritual collapse is a beautiful testament to the undeniable power of truth, justice, and the grand universal order. Never forget the incredible, unimaginable strength it took to completely break free from their highly toxic chains and boldly reclaim your sacred life forever. You survived the absolute worst of their psychological warfare, emerging from the dark trenches with profound wisdom and unshakable boundaries today. Because if you truly want to understand why they are silently praying for a way out, just remember this.